Okay, Liz. All right. This brings us to the last mindful leadership session after a break, and I'm keen to hear how that's been for you as well. So what we're going to be doing today is a bit of a recap and feedback from last session. We're going to introduce the idea of balance, mind training as always, and then a work-life balance at the end. So I'd love to start with a bit of a reflection piece. How has it been since our last session? What are the successes, insights, challenges, any questions as well that have come up? Because a month is a big gap to begin to incorporate everything that we've covered. Also notice perhaps some drop-offs or challenges that you've had, and then even some successes as well. Who wants to, Kathy, Katie or Linda, which one would like to express what's been for you?
I found myself not doing it as much as I probably should. So doing my sessions, and I find that I think I probably would be more the right word, but I think it would be helpful maybe if I did do it and I slowed down. Otherwise, gave myself that time.
Yeah. What do you think would support you integrating that?
Well, I'm with Katie at lunch. I think my husband needs to not be at home because I don't know when my time goes when he's around.
Okay, I'm not sure how easy that is to arrange, but...
No. Honestly, I think it is about time management, and actually, I guess valuing it as, putting that time aside and putting that value to it, to benefit of it, really. Like that short-term investment for a long-term gain.
Do you think it's made a difference on your weekdays if you practiced it regularly?
I'm sure it, a low down of a morning.
Have you personally, experienced that personally, apart from what you think, maybe should happen, but a personal experience of it?
Look, I think my problem is that I haven't been diligent enough in doing it every day, so it makes it really hard to get pattern of behaviour and to be able to really see it. But I do feel that it has made a difference, particularly when I get up, because for a few weeks there I did it for about 5 days. I've never really done it over the full 7 days. But I was doing it on work days, much better around doing that. And I do think it made a difference.
Yes. Okay. So it's consistency that I'm hearing from you as well, and being able to make it a priority more than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I'm single, so I've had more time.
Great, Kathy. Before you continue, we've just had someone else join us, but the name hasn't come up. Who's online with us now?
So I'm Lisa from able to speak today, land.
Lisa Ray, but we're glad to have you on board, whether you can speak or not.
Thank you.
That's great. So he was just beginning to explain a bit of reflection and how it's been going.
Yeah, I read the article on energizing rather than kind of time management, like managing your energy. Taking that on board here at Bradbury, are really working well, and all the staff are on board with it, all my caseworkers. So doing using something 15 minutes 3 times a week, around Tuesdays, something different, and invites everyone to it. So far we've done colouring, we've done yoga, we've done a mindful walk, we've done ice, so in Zumba every Friday afternoon now for 15 minutes before we leave.
Great.
PD set up. So just kind of really concentrating on that renewing energy, and the feedback so far that I'm getting is that people feel more energized after we've done something and more motivated.
Yeah.
So that's working well. And
I love the Zumba.
yeah, it's
Yeah, but it works on so many levels because it's that circuit breaker away from thinking into sensing. So even if it feels silly, it's still that physical movement. And what a great time of day to put it in as well, being transition time from work. So I love
yeah, the other ones we've sort of done around, mid-afternoon and stuff. And some things have gone 20, 25 minutes, but that's been okay. And then we get into it. And we also do something before every case consult for the DV framework. So it's just been mostly just a short meditation, but it's them on a mindful walk, and they found it a little bit wanky at first because we it's sort of more designed for children, but we're just focusing on one sense at a time as we walked around the block, and then we would stop and talk about, how we've used that sense and then what we each heard or smelt or...
Yeah.
We sort of a bit odd standing on the corner with our eyes closed, but that's okay.
You kind of get past that, don't you?
Yeah. So I've really found that stuff really helpful. We're going to review it in a month or so to see whether or not it's been something that has. But from what I'm hearing from them now, when we talk about it, they say it really makes a difference for them. So
that's fabulous.
Yeah, so it's
I'm just wondering, integrating it maybe into meetings, has that ever arisen or thought about?
Yeah, we have just the consult, and then team meetings, we only have them every 8 weeks, and we've always done the chair has to do some sort of fun activity before we start. That's kind of a based activity kind of thing. So we've always kind of done that before that.
It's like you've set up some really good tools to help, innovation, creativity, being in the moment, performance, and really bringing out the best in all the people working in that space. Well done.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. Thank you. Linda or Lisa Ray?
It's Ray here. I have to be honest and just haven't had very much time to do a lot of anything new other than continuing with we've incorporated into our team meetings at the beginning of each team meeting, started a bit of journaling. So using a journal to just reflect on it's gone and the month to come, and just take a minute to sort of get their mind into being at the meeting and what we're about to do there, and then people share if they want to, and if they don't have to. But we just take a couple of minutes at the beginning of each session, and rotating the chair. So we're doing something similar, rotating the chair, and whoever's chairing is using one of the creative tools out of our cupboard to get everybody to do something mindful. So it's varied each meeting, but it's having the effect of also making people more familiar with the creative engagement tools that we have at our disposal, but people forget are in the cupboard. So
that's great, and I love as well how everyone's been a bit creative in how what that looks like. It doesn't have to follow a certain rigidity and formula. It's about working with your team to see what works for them and using the tools that you have. So that's brilliant. Thank you.
Add one other thing, Sabina. Another thing that we did, and I can't this, it's a positive psychologist practitioner's toolkit, and I can send it if anyone wants it. It's a use, but it's a kind of it's to explain, but it kind of breaks down your goals in a really interesting way, like so it sort of makes your goals kind of they're not a practical goal. It's broken down into a value you have about your goal, and the step that you follow. I mean, you end up with like a little goal action plan, which is really simple to follow. So we also did that, and we're going to feedback on that. But I'll send it.
Yeah. So welcome to send it via email as a reply to all, or pop it on the Yammer, so that way everybody has it on the Yammer group.
Yeah, I found it really good. It's kind of about, it's really hard to sort of show you guys, but I found it really good. And working on
Brilliant.
it now. Sorry.
Brilliant.
Talking about doing it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, fabulous. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you. Yammer group, it's, I don't know if that's continued or not, but that's something we'll spend some time talking about as well, just to keep going and sharing some resources along the way. So thank you. Annabelle, we've just got yourself.
I already spoke. It's Katie we've got left.
Katie.
I was more than happy just listening to people.
I can't hear your voice yet.
I have to admit I haven't been very good at following through with much at all. I do the prioritising in the morning, and I've been allowing myself like some time to get tasks done. But other than that, I've not been very good at it.
And that's okay too. Sometimes time doesn't allow for it, or it's not at our priority, and it's not the fault of our mind. Doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. Like the that we've covered, you've still got the PDFs with you. You can come back to the videos at any time and revisit them as well. So it's good to know that that's always there. And a lot of the information is there at your at your tips. So that's great. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay. So does anybody see the screen? No. I have a little video. Who said no?
Oh, me, because I've telephoned and I couldn't get through on the screen. I've got the handout, but I can't see the video.
Okay, there's a video that's a couple of minutes long that I'm going to show now. And then once we finish, we might just have a little bit of a discussion about it. Is that okay? I'll be able to see it, but you'll be able to hear it.
Okay.
And that's you wanted to eat it, and you, yeah. So I say, give me another one. Okay, now you can have both.
So cute. These kids are adorable. So has everybody heard about the marshmallow experience?
On that video, but yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
They're cute. I love the end who just puts two in his mouth as well. So this brings us on to talk about how the idea of balance and the instant gratification as well, and control your impulses and that experiment itself. So they were actually intact 18 years later, and about 30% said that are actually able to were healthier, had lower crime rates, more financially secure, better behaved in school, and had higher scores, which in itself is quite interesting to see the correlation between that. So the idea of the impulse control, dopamine, the idea that we have a hit every time something is pleasurable, so say be chocolate, gambling, where that dopamine gets released. And serotonin is the more consistent, it's the content, pleasure after a period of time. And I'm sure that you can relate within your clients and also yourselves as well. And the analogy of desire, saying that, we have this desire, but the attachment of that desire. So whether it be, let's say, chocolate, for example, desire, then we have the attachment to desire, and then we continue to reinforce that, then we become addicted to that chocolate. Still buying it, yes, but it's along those lines of continually giving in to that hit. So impulse control important for you. Your own impulse control, maybe at work or at home. So your term goals versus your short-term goals. Relationships, food, exercise, mind training, education. And we're actually doing, what we're doing in mindfulness is we're training our impulse control. So, for example, focusing on our breath for 10 minutes, the idea of focusing on the breath itself is not something that's continually, giving us a dopamine kicks, but it's actually that level of being able to stay with, when we get distracted, we come back to it, and building that consistency of that impulse control. So it makes sense why, that work and increases serotonin. So it's also looking at the short versus long-term satisfaction or long-term goals. So is it simple pleasures or long-lasting happiness that is important when you look at things? And so when you're thinking of freedom, so imagine a world that has no desire for what you don't have and no aversion for what you do have. The idea that could possibly bring you freedom. And freedom is in our mind rather than the reality of it. And you're about, was it Nelson Mandela, who was in prison, and yet, that he talked about stories about having, level of freedom. It's not aversion to what he does, what he has, or the desire for what you don't have. And I'm sure we've heard many stories along the way that replicated that idea, and self as well. So looking at how could a more balanced mind benefit you at work, and then how could it also benefit others around you? Reflection around that. So getting into that dopamine, that real serotonin kick.
I start the day from a more balanced place. Surely that's got to have an effect on how what the team feels from me, and the time and availability and mind space I've got to pass on and be available for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you think of times that hasn't kicked in? Not having that balance, is that most of the time, or perhaps a percentage of the time, or
I don't think it's.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think it's a lot. At the times is when there's like a few crises sort of going on at once, and you're lots of directions, and you're not really sure, who to back or who you need to get enough information to know which one to address first. But it's obviously times too, in your general demeanour, and like if you're feeling unwell, then you're not necessarily going to be in the best place. Or if you've got a bit of a headache or you're tired, it all starts to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you think this, and in your leadership as well, knowing that there's that dopamine kick and serotonin, when you're working with people, how can that influence how you connect with them and what you say?
Was that to me?
Yeah, start with yourself and then anybody else who wants to add in.
When you have a really good session, be it informal or formal, around a discussion with a family, if you get an outcome, I maybe where you're going to get your reward from when you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. Really sure of the answer to that. Chocolate in my office, so maybe I'm doing it that way.
Bribery, love it.
That's right.
Fabulous. Anyone else got some bribery going on there? They want to share? Well, I have to come to your office with some chocolate.
Brought it with us. It's all good.
Great. Thank you. Else, a bit of a reflection on that balance and aid gratification and the impact that has on your work and the way you lead people. Two instead of one.
I think in terms of the work we do, it's really easy to take a shortcut, but when put in place, more thorough and thought out practice where you're going to get a better, longer term result. I think for me, there's a relationship there.
Yes. Yes.
I'll agree with Linda and say that sometimes one of the biggest challenges is the fact that because overall we're in the family homes much more often than, say, a child protection worker is, and we can see what needed, a long-term goal, we can see the pace that's being made, whereas often the pressure is to get very short turnaround results so we can get people off their books. So it's often a challenge to be able to help staff also stay mindful of what the end result is that we're looking for and the small steps you have to take to people get there, rather than the short-term quick fixes that can be very tempting because they make you feel very successful very quickly, but not necessarily lasting.
Absolutely correct. And it's that awareness piece that is quite vital. In there's that tunnel vision of leaving that goal, but really looking at the bigger picture that you're able to provide. It's great. Anyone?
Come back out of the room for a sec. Sorry.
That's okay.
Any that I passed on is kind of that way. Like it looks at it's simple. Like it looks at a large goal and breaks it down, but it breaks it down in a more mindful way. Certain steps to kind of get to. Like I'll give you like a really quick example if you want. But just one of the things that I wanted to achieve was because I've got 8 grandchildren and some of them live the coast, Fairway. So one was
Yeah, perfect now.
I want to be like a more mentor for my children. Like following some steps around where I am at this point, where I would like to be, and then what's realistic, what's not, things like that.
Beautiful.
Kind of rate it and all that. And the end result from kind of thinking about what I could do, it made me really come up with some things. One of them was to go to the grandchildren, spending more one-on-one time with them. So real tangible things that I can do that will lead to, you know, one day them being able to say when I'm not around, you know, like that I had a big influence on them, which is, yeah, so it kind of fits in with.
Absolutely. Being able to, you know, spend that quality time and things for them as well. So, you know, that comes from giving that quality time and giving those teachings also will support the instant gratification. And
Yeah.
It
was kind of not beating myself up that I can't get to Bateman's Bay every weekend. It was more about what.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else before I go on? Okay. So, developing balance, observing your reaction to anything you experience. Is it an attraction or you averse to it? So this is more of a internal exploration for yourself. So whether at work or at home, exercise or whatever it is there attraction to it or is there an aversion to it? The idea of applying a beginner's mind, in what situations would it be particularly useful to do that? So we'll just skip that one. So it's just about balance. So it's more about the attraction and aversion.
But I'm not great at it.
Great. And through practice, I think we'll keep on getting better and better at it.
Yeah.
Practice and outside of our practice as well. Talking about the practice, let's actually do one now. So we'll do a minute A, B, C, D again. But this is, we're going to look at open awareness training and looking at our distractions as being our anchors. Have we done this one? Where distractions are our anchor. Yep. Okay. Go through some explanation again, or you're all quite comfortable with that one? If there's any questions on the distractions being your anchor,
I could go through it again if you could, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. So when distractions arise, and it might be, oh, there's the sound of the clock. That's a distraction. I wish that wasn't so loud. It's really annoying me and I can't quite practice right now. So rather than pushing it away and wishing that there was an aversion, you know, that you're averse to it or I like the sound of that clock, it's helping me stay really concrete and grounded and it's that repetitive, so I love it. So rather than having either one of those, it's just looking at the distraction as an object, just as your breath. And all of a sudden, it's the click. He came on board and couldn't talk before. I think I've put it. Okay, so rather than the clock being a distraction, all of a sudden the clock is your focus. So I'm listening to the clock tick right now. How far is that clock? Is it on the right or is it on the left? The quality and the sound and texture of those ticks. What else notice about the clock? So you're really investigating and exploring the distraction. It might come up as a form of a thought or a sound or another kind of sense. It might fly on your nose. Fly might, you might be thinking, wow, there's a fly on my nose. That feels quite, ticklish. What of a fly on my nose? It doesn't matter what your distraction is. It's about how you are engaging with that distraction. How much of that distraction is your focus and object, actually observing it as that, or getting entangled in the distraction and you're either averse to it or you're attracted to it. It's about really just observing that distraction and that distraction becoming your focus, like we have been with our breath. The breath is our focus. We're counting to help us stay anchored on our breath and our anchor and our focus, and now our anchor is going to be our distractions. Any questions on that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this one's a little bit different to the ones that we've predominantly been doing. So it just feels like, for some of you it might be really relieving because that level of freedom and no boundaries, and you can just go with it where you like. And for others, this feels, it doesn't feel right because it's not rigid and it's not sitting within the box. So just see how you go with it, and just knowing that distractions will become your focus. So the key with this is you're not getting entangled in the drama and the story of the distraction. You're observing the distraction as an object. See as an object. So it's the thoughts. You're perhaps investigating your thoughts, saying, "Oh, I'm angry right now. Where's that anger sitting in my body? It's in my chest. How is it in my chest? What colour is it? Where do I feel it? What's the circumference of it?" And you're really just putting on the detective hat and curiosity in that form with your distraction. So what I might do is start if there's no more questions. Sitting in. Closing when you're ready. I'm just going to put you all on mute. And observing your breath to begin. Your breath entering and exiting. You're comfortably in the chair. Connecting your breath. The simple, repetitive nature of breath as it enters and exits. Breathing in, breathing out. And then counting your breath from 1 to 10 and 10 down to 1. To 10 and 10 to 1. And now you to have some frame to do what organically arises. So you're not going to reach out for distractions. You're not necessarily even going to push them away. But see what organically arises with your distractions. What comes up for you. And those distractions, use those as your anchor. Explore it in detail. practice to a close. Gently bringing more alertness to you sitting in the chair, the sound you. Slowly opening your eyes and just creating a little bit more movement in your body. Maybe having a bit of a stretch, your shoulders back. Take time to transition from that stillness to discussion. I'm just going to mute you all. How was practice? What came for you?
This is Lisa. I'm just, I fell asleep. That's so much for me.
Did you fall asleep for the whole of it?
No, but when I heard your voice, I nearly jumped out of my skin. So I've gone somewhere there.
You had a great.
Sorry.
But again, didn't you?
I didn't, but honestly, you'd think I hadn't had a weekend at all the way today's gone. But anyway.
Fabulous. Thanks.
Sorry, yeah, I don't remember much of it.
Okay. There's going to be sometimes our practice is just like that. Our bodies are so exhausted that you'll fall into that space of just switching off for a bit of time. You'll find that you'll become more alert and you'll get more focused, but it comes in waves. Accepting that process as well, rather than judging it or wishing it was different, being averse to it or attracted to it. Just seeing that. Great, thank you.
No.
Any else?
A lot of trees out there, and I've never really listened to the birds before, so I'm kind of just letting myself listen to them. Then I was starting to wonder, I have wondered this, but what they're saying. Like, I know they kind of calling other birds, but I was sort of trying to visualise actually saying, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah. So it's when we just go into the space of organically seeing what comes up as our focus, as our anchor, rather than us dictating what we think it should be, rather giving it some time and opportunity to just be and see what comes up. So it's great that, you know, and what I find curious as well is that you've said you haven't really listened to the birds. You know, what else in life do we really not miss?
And it was interesting what you said, because my focus straight away, as soon as I closed my eyes, was like I could hear my clock just next to me ticking. I thought that would be my distraction. I hear it, but then once I started listening to the birds, I don't remember hearing it again. So it's like that
okay.
went out of it.
Great. Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Would anyone else like to share? You don't have to. Just if you do. Better know. I'm going to move on. The part that we're going to talk about is work-life balance. So what is the meaning of work-life balance to you? And a scale from 1 to 10, what degree do you experience work-life balance? So just answering those two questions. Let's start.
I'm quite good.
Love you to start then.
Yep. I don't think mine is.
No,
we're not judging at all, though.
Mine is either.
Great. Okay. Starting.
To literally scale this.
So just give me. It's just a discussion piece.
Okay.
So, yeah. To navigate what just to talk about what your work-life balance is like, and what does it actually mean? What does it mean for you? Does it mean switching off at 9? No, not when you start. Switching off at 5, or what does it exactly mean?
Look, Linda, and for me, some other people might not like my view of this, but I feel I have a good work-life balance when I go home and I'm not thinking about anything. So sometimes I'll go home and there's something still stuck in my head, and to me, what I know that means is I think I should have done more about it, or I need to action something. So if I do that, even if it's something short or I put in place a plan, then I'm done, and I'm happy with that, and I much prefer to do that, even if it's 5 hours, so it's done and so done, I can actually relax and go on and do my merry life. And so that's how it works. I'd much prefer to put in that bit of time, maybe at night or on a weekend, and go, yep, it's sorted, because I do have flexibility in my life at work where I can take a longer lunch hour, or I could, go to a doctor or whatever during the day if I need to. We've got that flexibility. So it works both ways for me.
Yeah, and so this is why this question is posed. What is work-life balance to you? It looks like to everybody else may be different, and that extended lunch hour is more important to you.
Probably.
She's drinking wine at that long extended lunch as well.
So we've got chocolate and we've got wine. So when are you inviting me along?
I'm only owning the chocolate, okay? I'm not owning the wine.
That's fabulous. Okay. All right. Next.
That'll be my feedback.
I would say that for me, I'm not feeling like my work-life balance is in order, and I suppose I relate that to things like where I put more priority on getting something done at work than making sure I get home with enough time to cook a healthy meal instead of grabbing takeaway. So I have to do that too many times in a week, then that for me means my life balance is out of whack. So it's not so much that I think I've got pretty good over the years at being able to disconnect from very well about the clients or about the workers and how they're managing. Every now and again, like Linda said, something breaks through and I feel like, yep, I'll deal with that. And once I've dealt with that and I know I'm not worried anymore, I can move on. But it's more the fact that I'm still feeling my way in a job that's now amalgamated and new, and so there's a lot more to get my head around than I used to have to get my head around. And so whether I'm taking longer or it's time management, I haven't quite come to grips with, but I feel like I could easily just keep on working and there'd still be heaps of work to do. So I have to be really self-disciplined, and some days I manage it, but often I don't, and then I end up sitting here because I don't want to come back to it tomorrow. I want to have a sense of progress. So I'm doing quite well for a little while at the being very at using the rules of mental effectiveness, choosing what to focus on and choosing, to let distractions go or what to distract me, and that seemed to help. But the busier I got, the harder it was to do, and I think that's where I feel like I don't have good work-life balance, is that ability to be able to find the end of my day at a reasonable hour and say, okay, that's enough. I'll get distracted by things not quite finished or, that kind of thing.
Yep. It's when we get busy, all those feelings of overwhelm, or that's when it gets a bit tougher, and that awareness just creeps away at the forefront of our mind necessarily. Yeah. And that, yeah.
I was just going to say that the one thing I would say about wellness training is that it's just strengthened my understanding that it's actually all within my control, and it's either my doing or my undoing, because it's where I'm actually putting my attention. So now that I've actually experienced what it's like when I focus, it's I'm much more positive. It's much harder to blame anybody else for your workload if you're the one not managing it. So I'm finding that a real positive, that I'm much more focused on what it is I've got to learn to control better or focus on better.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. And that awareness is really vital. And that time to stop and think. But thank you. Any thoughts before I move on? Okay. So when we look at work-life separation, there was a period of time where it was possible, and then we introduced electronic devices, and that began to look a bit more like integration rather than balance, because there was a real clear separation. You're at work, you're at home, and you're at home. Whereas now, your phone is on when you're having dinner, and all those work calls are coming through, and those emails. So it's not only our thinking around it, so we're thinking perhaps about work when we're home, but it's also the fact that there keeps on being pop-ups and those reminders as well. That always being on idea. So thinking about work-life balance, actually, let's talk a little about that. So what is important for your balance? So is it aligned with your values, your time at work and home, colleagues, and your content of work? So really what this question is exploring is what is important for your balance. So we've already heard from two of you, and that looked quite different as to what you think your work-life balance is. So it's about exploring. So as I talk, just contemplating that for a while and thinking, what is my balance? What are my views? What do I want to see things, If I'm eating well for myself, then I know that that's contradicting with the values that I have. I'm not looking after myself. Really just exploring that for yourself. Two aspects of work-life balance, the external and the internal. So the external is, as you were mentioning before, leaving at 5 and making sure that's happening. But it's the internal world of having those lists of to do, and internally you're still carrying it when you're in the car, when you're home, when you're with your family. So the two different aspects of work-life balance. And that work-life balance is actually a myth. It's about balancing the constant imbalance. So really looking at someone, or even if your own experience, do you have work-life balance and then I'm done and then the kayak never tips, or for a period of time you're balanced, carrying on for a while and then unbalances again? So it's just knowing that work-life balance is continually going to change, and this is where you go back to the thing and asking yourself, what are my values? What like for me? You go back onto balancing that. But it's constant imbalance, a bit like looking at your breath, and then you'll get distracted, you pick yourself up and you go back to your breath. So the constant reassessing and bringing it back to that focus and anchor. So it's a state of mind rather than the physical sense of 9 to 5. If you're in the car, you're at home and you're taking it home with you. About accepting the constant imbalance. We are out of balance. We've got our electronic devices always switched on, and there's always things hanging in that space. So the tool that we're going to talk about. So in the centre here, and I think it's Lisa Ray, you can't see the screen, but you might have this set off as well for you that you can see. In the middle, it has ACT. and it's act on the things that you can change. So our lunch, and I'm going to take it on Wednesday from 12 to 1, and I'm going to act on that because that's what is within my control. Then, in a staff member, has been a death in the family that they're working with at the moment. So it's around accepting that lunch that you had planned is going to happen, and that it's accepting that the things you can't change as well. So that work-life balance gets thrown out, but accepting that process or acting with it. So if there's a solution to your problem, why? And if there's a solution, and if there's no solution, then why worry? So what this is talking about is we spend a time worrying and thinking. So if we are strategically or how, to manage the situation, that's different. But a lot of the times the question that I ask you is, are we stuck in this worrying and thinking, or is it, a very strategic, thinking of our way around it, how we're going to manage it? So acceptance is the ability not to make bad things worse. Is it difficult to accept work-life imbalance? Comment on that? Perhaps someone who can comment on the previous. When is it difficult to accept work-life imbalance?
Makes sense of the question. When is it difficult?
Okay. So knowing that work-life is always it's imbalance, and that's always going to struggle for us to, some will be like, yep, okay, we've got work under control and my life is good, and then sometimes your life, there's something that's happened in life, maybe you're grieving, and so work will be affected. So knowing that there is always that imbalance, is that difficult to accept?
I don't really feel like I have a problem with work balance. I kind of am pretty clear cut at separating the two, and maybe that's just experience or my personal.
Yeah.
But I don't really. I mean, I've had times where I've had some pretty massive things happen personally, but I still don't feel like I have let things slide at time. Maybe time-wise, I haven't been able to give as much time to one thing than the other, but then sometimes if things are going really well at work, or they're going really bad at home, work can be kind of way. Like I don't feel like one is over the other. I'm very, very clear on always having things to look forward to and lots to do. And my children are grown too, so I've got a fairly easy home life. So I have to go home and still cook dinner and still do this and do that. So I think it's easier as well to have that when you're a bit older.
Thank you. Balance is a state of mind. It's about being present in the imbalance. So perhaps for some of us who are struggling with the work-life balance, maybe it's not the external, but it's the state of mind and acceptance around that imbalance. When is presence challenged? So skip that because it doesn't sound like imbalance. Acceptance of that imbalance is playing a huge part in this team. So just explore. These are the few tips that when you do feel like work-life balance is actually tipping off, tips that you could use are that mindful commuting. So following from A to B, what are you doing in that transition time? So perhaps when you're sitting on the train going to work or going home, it could be an opportunity to have the phone app and have a 10-minute practice while you're on the train. Perhaps you're having to fly a lot. So would you be listening to one of the apps while you're on the plane? Or perhaps sometimes some of the planes also have guided meditations that you could listen to. But exploring that as well. When you're in the car, it could be something as simple as, I'm going to get to my destination 10 minutes earlier. And at that point, I'm going to put on the phone app and I'm going to do a short practice. So using it in your commute time. And what you can do in the car is actually sensing and feeling the steering wheel. So this is when you've stopped, obviously, between the transition of getting out and getting in, is feeling the steering wheel or smelling if it's a new car, what does it smell like? Really engaging in all your senses. Any questions on that one? Or perhaps some of you, if you've got any ideas of some commute practices that you're using at the moment that you'd like to share with others. This will remember from the very beginning, making tough choices, say yes or no to things. The first card that we sent out. You on that? Are you still saying yes or no a lot, or are you finding that you're saying yes and no to things at certain times? So just putting that in action. So maybe having the postcard handy and just putting it on your desk is a nice reminder. Also, noticing when you're available. Do you need to have your phone on 24/7? Can you put it away while you're having dinner? Do you need to be getting work emails on your phone? So give yourself some time to explore that. How accessible do you really want to be? Or do you want to separate it a little bit? What's up with you separating it mentally as well? Thoughts on the accessibility idea of having, do you get emails on your phone?
All the time. So you can see them all day long.
Okay. A choice to switch them off. And do we go into automatic with the emails, or do you actually decide, no, I'm not going to look at them now?
Recently started, when I get in the car to drive anywhere, I found that I was getting distracted by pings, especially because if I've got to do drive, so say I'm going from Port Macquarie to Taree because I've got staff down there, I would, because it feels like a waste of work time to just be sitting in the car, you get tempted to look. So I've started actually putting the phone in flight mode, because that cuts off. I don't hear anything, nothing pings, nothing arrives, so it doesn't download anything. And so now I have to consciously then take out of flight mode when I'm ready to sit down and have a look at the emails.
Yes, yeah. And you've had to really make that decision and go, okay, I'm going to put that in place and that be at the forefront of your mind. So well for taking that initiative and doing that. And remember the times that there wasn't the law that we couldn't text and drive? Or, you know, that took a lot of training to go, hey, this is, you know, it was a fear-based and that's where the decision was enforced. And, you know, the penalty involved, but that required training. So that level of training, what do you want to implement into your day now? Accessibility. You know, do you want to switch off your phone? Do you want to maybe not look at your emails first thing? What do you want to do around accessibility and make making that work-life balance better for you. It will be different for everybody. Move on, we're just getting close to 5. So any suggestions that you have around the travel, the yes, no, accessibility?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're just at the end now. So if you haven't already completed the survey, I'll send the link again. Use the mindfulness and kindness practice on a regular basis, tapping into whatever you feel you most need that week. And use at least one tip to improve your sense of work-life balance. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about supporting each other and continuing this, because this is our last session. We have the Yammer group. You'll see that in an email I sent previous participants and the current participants. So knowing that there is a bit of a network in Uniting, that you've been able to go through this program and continue sharing resources on Yammer. If there's anything else that comes up, feel free to email each other, or it was Jessica that navigated this within Uniting as well and got us on board. So if you want to reach out to her, if there's anything else that you'd like, please do. Is there anything else that you'd like to raise, or anything to negate the continuation of within the community? Or anything at all?
Personal level, I think it's really good for me to have a reminder that's right in front of me so I can keep it going. Kate was saying she's got her postcard on the screen, and I think I need to do that.
Yeah.
Stop screen, sorry.
One of the postcards from when we first started in that setup kit.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
Idea. Oh, awesome. We keep using those resources.
Yeah, Sina, thanks, Kate. It's been really interesting, and I know I found
It's been an absolute pleasure. Sharing it with me as well. Good luck continuing. Further questions, just email me or reach out, or I'm always available. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care.
You too. Bye.